Wow, TechSparks. I saw a lot of energy in the first half of the day. I was sitting through some of the sessions, and what a fabulous day it's been. Some of the speakers are just spot on about AI, and I'm really fortunate and happy to be here in front of you, although I can't see many of you because the light is in my eye, if something can be done. Thank you. So I think this is a great segue into the topic that I'm going to spend the next 10, 15 minutes on. And I think Raghuveer touched upon this in terms of how do you build compliance and how do you build AI governance around some of the things that he talked about. So that's my focus today. A quick introduction. My name is Kavita Viswanath. I'm the Senior Vice President and Country Head at Toast. How many of you have heard of Toast? Okay, few hands. How many of you think Toast is a startup? Okay, few hands. Happy it wasn't a lot. Let me tell you a little bit about Toast. We are a global dominant POS, point of sale SaaS provider. We work with more than 150,000 restaurants globally, clocking 2 billion in ARR as of Q3. Most importantly, we not just build a POS system, but we build a complex system that caters to the entire ecosystem for a restaurant and cafe, starting from front of the house to back of the house. And I'll be happy to talk to you more about it outside this room. We have a setup in India between Bangalore and Chennai. And what we do in India is essentially build some of our top products from our R&D centers, which are set up between these two cities. Enough about Toast. Let's quickly dive into the topic. Quick disclaimer, all the views and things that I'm going to talk about are purely mine. Very, very essential to know. Does not represent Toast or any of the affiliates, partners that I may have been part of. Does this look familiar, guys? I got a lot of these forwards. It's super funny, but I think this is where organizations are headed. So let's talk a little bit about how not to be this. Building sustainable AI, the most important principle behind that is to build responsible intelligence. Now, this is not just an engineering mandate or a coding practice. This is about how, as leaders, you make the right business decisions that fall within this framework of building scalable, sustainable AI, which is really a three-part mandate. And let's talk about what each of these things mean. It starts with a business mandate. And this is where most organizations fail. Picture this. We're all in Yashwantpur. It starts pouring. It's Bangalore. It can pour any time of the day. Everything gets flooded. There is an emergency in the city. You want to get out at the end of the session or end of the day. You try to open up your cab app or your ride-hailing app, and you see search pricing has already kicked in. Apart from the fact that it frustrates you, it also disappoints you because you feel like, hey, this is not the time you want to look at search pricing, right? So I think the important thing to note here is this is not an engineering failure. The system worked exactly the way it was expected to work, which is the business logic built into it to maximize revenue when the demand is super high. But I think what happened there is the intent and the objectives were not translated in the right manner that went into building operational boundaries for testable engineering requirements. So I think focusing on how do you build that business mandate with the right intent behind some of these decisions is a crucial part of this pillar. Next comes engineering mandate. Now we want to build an architecture that you can put trust into, a system which is auditable by design, and with traceable data lineage, and explainable logic. And I think this is what Raghuveer left us with when he answered the last question. This is not something that you put as an afterthought or you bolt onto the system when the model fails at production, right? You've got to think about it at the design phase when you're thinking about starting from the right intent-based business mandate to how do you translate that into the engineering mandate. Next comes product, which is about building the right transparent interface with explainable logic so that your users understand that this is coming from the right data points And more importantly, they are able to understand the why behind some of the AI decisions that's being thrown at them. And this makes the product more powerful and sets a clear path to act on the outcomes, giving more confidence to the user. Now that we've set this responsible intelligence framework, the important part is building the guardrails right. How do you put the human in the loop when you think about some of these guardrails? Starting with the context, when you put judgment in an AI model, and think about it, right? All the AI models that we know have been trained on past data. What happens when a model that's trained on past data is put into the real world chaos? What happens when the model is not able to get the context of the real world? And this is where the human in the loop becomes important to provide that judgment to the model. Next comes feedback. As a user, when you interact with the model, whether it's a prompt or additional context that you're giving, or you're correcting the model in many cases, or you're making some recommendations. Now, this is not a failure of the model per se. This is actually looked upon as very valuable training inputs that the model loves, and the model is looking at correcting itself using some of these inputs. And this is what makes the model adaptable, and this is where the acceleration of the model starts kicking in. Last comes review, where you want to ensure quality, reliability, and readiness to scale. And this is the most important checkbox, which takes your model from successfully testing it to deploying it at 100% scale. But when you think about human in the loop and some of these guardrails, how will it work at scale? I mean, we are living in a world where there are hundreds and thousands of models. So how do you put this human in the loop when you think about building this at scale? This is where governance as an engineering discipline becomes super important. It starts with the first step of building this governance in the CI phase, where you want to automate checks to validate models for bias. This is before the merge happens, for check for regressions, vulnerabilities before production. Next comes post-deployment. You're stepping into an era with real-time observability for AI, with real-time tracking of production models for drift, which is real. I think we've all experienced drift. Degradation, violations, and treating some of these anomalies as critical incidents, just like you would for a regular production incident that our systems face and you get an alert. Some of these incidents need to be treated with the same level of priority. Post-deployment comes structural accountability, where you maintain rigorous version control for all your assets, including data, models, and create a fully auditable history of it. Then comes governance as code, where you're looking at traceable approval workflows, data use rules, and ensuring automatic and platform-wide enforcement. Now, this framework is what helps you build some of this human-in-the-loop systems at scale. And this is why we talk about this being part of your SDLC and not something as an afterthought. Now, it's a very well-known fact that data and AI use tons of resources and energy. We see so many data centers springing up all over the world. And there is a segment of society that's very, very unhappy about this. So how do you, as a technical leader, ensure that you're building sustainable AI and baking in some of these sustainable practices into your system? Starting with data pipeline optimization, where you eliminate redundant processing and stop continuous wasteful retraining of models. There is only so much optimization you can do with an existing model, and I think this is the point when you stop doing some of these retraining, especially if you feel your model is right. You think about model architecture, where you compress models without sacrificing or giving up on accuracy, and this will definitely minimize the energy footprint. You schedule computing. Today, compute, because it's so ad hoc and it consumes so much of resources happens at a time when you have no idea how much resources are getting used. But is it possible for you to schedule this compute at a time when the grid is clean, when you know that the grid has maximum access to renewable energy? Think about infrastructure decommissioning, which means active sunsetting of redundant or idle GPU clusters. This prevents energy consumption and stops the waste. So when we look at this sustainable intelligence framework and you put it together with some of the things that we spoke about earlier, starting from building responsible intelligence to scaling it with human in the loop and using governance as an engineering discipline, sustainable intelligence and building sustainable AI becomes a reality. All right, I'll leave you with my last slide, which is on Toast IQ. Some of the things that we spoke about, we've really done and taken into account when we built Toast IQ at scale. For those of you who don't know, Toast IQ is our AI product that we launched just a couple of weeks ago. It's an AI assistant for restaurants and food and beverage retailers. It uses conversational AI and gives deep insights to a business, which is our restaurant owner and operators, on a daily basis to give them actionable insights on what they need to do, what decision they need to make at that moment. For example, if it's a Halloween weekend, how do you make sure that your menu caters to that? How do you ensure that your pricing is right, looking at your competitors around the same zip code? Some of these things go into Toast IQ. And some of the practices that we spoke about, especially around transparent product mandate, having trust in the decision that comes from the product to say, hey, this decision comes out of my own data set, is something that we take very personally at Toast. So Toast IQ is one such product that we have launched. And you can read more about it on our website. With that, it's my time, and wow, I ended it on time. I know I'm standing between you and lunch, but thank you very much for having me. I hope this triggered some of those thought bubbles that we spoke about earlier. Have a lovely afternoon. Thank you.